Hey family, today is Sunday, Suji's birthday in America, but I know it's Monday, I think, for you guys or something like that. Well, anyways, I hope you guys had a wonderful day today. I saw you guys playing with the balloons and things like that. Seems like fun. Well, the BFG Ronald doll. Dream catching. The big friendly giant put the suitcase on the ground. He bent down low so that his enormous face was so close to Sophie's. From now on, we is keeping as still as winkily little miceys, he whispered. Sophie nodded. The misty vapor swirled around her. It made her cheeks damp and left dewdrops in her hair. The BFG opened the suitcase and took out several empty glass jars. He set them ready on the ground with their screw tops removed. Then he stood up very straight. His head was now high up in the swirling mist and kept disappearing, then appearing again. He was holding the long net in his right hand. Sophie, staring upwards, saw through the mist that his colossal ears were beginning to swivel out from his head. They began waving gently to and fro. Suddenly, the BFG pounced. He leapt high in the air and swung the net through the midst with a great swish sweep of his arm. Got him, he cried. A jar, a jar, a jar, quick, quick, quick. Sophie picked up the jar and held it up to him. He grabbed a hold of it. He lowered the net, and very carefully he tipped something absolutely invisible from the net into the jar. He dropped the net and swiftly clapped one hand over the jar. The top, he whispered. The jar, top, quick. Sophie picked up the screw top and handed it to him. He screwed it on tight, and the jar was closed. The BFG was very excited. He held the jar close to one ear and listened intently. It's a wink squiffler, he whispered with a thrill in his voice. It's even better. It's a fizz wizard. It's a golden fizz wizard. Sophie stared at him. Can you stare? Oh my, he said, holding the jar in front of him. This will be giving some little toddler a very happy night when I is blowing in it. Is it really a good one? Sophie asked. A good one, he cried. It's a golden fizz wizard. It is not often I getting one of these. He handed the jar to Sophie and said, Please be still, as a starfish now. I am thinking there may be a whole swarm of fizz wizards up here today, and do kindly stop breathing. You is terribly noisy down there. I haven't moved a muscle, Sophie asked. Then don't, the BFG answered sharply. Once again, he stood up tall in the mist, holding his net at the ready. Then came the long silence, the waiting, the listening, and at last, with a surprising sadness, came the leap and the swish of a net. Another jar, he cried. Quick, quick, quick. Do you see the BFG getting the golden fizz wizards? Fizz swishers? When the second dream was safely in the jar and the top was screwed down, the BFG held it in his ear. Oh no, he cried. Oh, mince my maggots. Oh, swipe my goggles. What's the matter? Sophie asked. It's a troggle humper, he answered. His voice was filled with fury and anguish. Oh, save our solos, he cried. Deliver us from the weasels. The devil is dancing on the dibbler. What are you talking about? Sophie said. The BFG was getting more distressed every moment. Oh, bash my eye bones, he cried, willowing at the jar in the air. I come all this way to a lovely golden dreams, and what is I catching? What are you catching? Sophie said. I is catching a frightsome toggle humper, he cried. That is a bad dream. Are you ready to dream tonight? Are you? J. Crew, are you? Let's not have bad dreams now. Let's have beautiful dreams. But over here, the sky, the BFG, is catching scary dream, it looks like. I never's letting it go, the BFG cried. If I do, then some poor little toddler will be having some most curdle-blooding time. This one is a real kissy bag thumper. I is exploding as soon as I get home. Nightmares are horrible, Sophie said. I had one once and I was sweating all over. With this one, you'll be waking up screaming all over, the BFG said. This one will make your teeth stand on end. If this one got into you, your blood would be freezing into icicles and your skin would be creeping across the floor. Is it as bad as that? It's worse, the BFG said. This is a real whoopsie-gropsy witcher. You said it's a troggle humper, Sophie told him. It is a troggle thumper, said the BFG, the exasperated BFG. But it is also a bogs thumper and a grob switcher. It is all three riddled unto one. Oh, I is glad I is clutching it tight. Oh, you wicked beastie. Oh, you, he cried up, holding the jar and staring into it. Nevermore is you going to be bunk-doodling the poor little human beanie toddlers. Sophie, who was staring into the jar, cried out, I can see it. There's something in there. Of course there's something in there, the BFG said. You was looking at a frightsome troggle humper, but you told me dreams were invisible. They is always invisible until they captured, the BFG told her. After that, they is losing a little bit of their invisibility. We is seeing this one very clearly. This is the scary one that he was talking about. Inside the jar, Sophie could see a faint scarlet outline of something that looked like a mixture between a blob of gas and a bubble of jelly. It was moving violently, thrashing around the sides of the jar, forever changing its shape. It's wiggling all over the place, Sophie cried. It's fighting to get out. It'll bash itself to bits. The nastier the dream, the angrier it is getting when it is in prison, the BFG said. It is same as with wild animals. If an animal is very fierce, you is putting it in a cage. It will be a tremendous rumpeldump. If it is a nice animal like a cockatoo and a frogglefrump, it will sit quietly. Dreams is exactly the same. This one is a quite nasty, fierce, begrotting nightmare. Just look at him, squashing himself against the glass. It is quite frightening, Sophie cried. I would be hating to get this one inside of me in a darksome night, the BFG said. So would I, Sophie said. The BFG started putting the bottles back into the suitcase. Is that all? Sophie asked. Is that all that we're getting? Are we going? I is so upset by this troggle humping, bogs thumping, grob switcher, the BFG said, that I is not wishing to go on. Dream catching is finished for the day. Soon Sophie was back in the waistcoat and the BFG was racing home as fast as he could go. When at last they emerged out of the mist and came again to the hot yellow wasteland, all the other giants were sprawled out on the ground, fast asleep. Next chapter will be the troggle humper for the flesh lump eater. Have a good night, J. Crew. I love you guys so much. Mwah. Good night, Mommy. Good night, Suji. Good night, Joshua. Good night, Joseph. Good night, Jesse. And good night, little baby in Mommy's womb. Love you guys. Good night.